Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of In the Spotlight. This episode is dedicated to women's healthcare, and today we're going to focus on breast cancer. We have a lot of wonderful guests with us. They happen to be Greek Americans, Greeks from Australia, who excel in their field. Joining us is cardiologist at Joan H. Tisch Center for Women's Health at NYU Langone Medical Center, Dr. Eva Costa, journalist Sylvia Papapostolou, clinical psychologist Dr. Kalliopi Kallias, and health coach and great chef Maria Benardis. Ladies, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, I'm very proud of all of you because you're all Greek and you've excelled in your field. And we're here in New York and we're going to talk about a topic that, of course, is of interest and unfortunately can affect all of us. And we want to find ways to prevent it. We want to find ways to learn more about it. And your expertise here today is going to enlighten our viewers. Statistics, 1 in 8 U.S. women.
1 in 8 U.S. women, 232,000 women are every year infected by cancer. The good news is, though, early prevention makes USA one of the countries that actually has seen the numbers of mortality plummeting, which is fantastic. Unlike Greece, where breast cancer is unfortunately the #1 cause of mortality among Greek women. 4,000 women a year are getting a very bad diagnosis, of which 2,000 unfortunately do not get this diagnosis early enough in order to be able to prevent it. So yeah.
The statistics are getting better, although they are saying cancer is increasing, there is a lower, there is a bigger chance of survival.
It's better because of early detection. Clearly, it's on every woman's mind, breast cancer, but most women will die of heart disease, but that we'll cover on another day.
That's something that, a lot of people don't know about.
Right, most women will die of heart disease, but we'll cover that another time. Most of us know somebody or love somebody who's had breast cancer, so it inspires a lot of fear in people. So the best strategy is to be proactive. At 40 years old, get your mammogram. Despite the controversy, it has decreased the incidence of people dying from breast cancer. Early detection is your best chance. Breast cancer is a diverse disease. It's not one disease, it's multiple disease. We're learning more about it. The genetics, the treatments, it's changing. So get your screening mammogram at 40, unless you have breast cancer early in the family.
Yeah,
you might have to.
If there is some sort of history,
then you start earlier.
What age would you recommend?
40, but if your mother had breast cancer in her 30s, you should have a mammo at 30. So it depends. Like I said, it's different for everybody. But generally speaking, get a mammogram at 40. Generally speaking, examine your breasts in the shower once a month. Look for lumps, look for skin changes, look for discharge. Go to a doctor, have a doctor examine your breasts once a month. Do things that you can change. Lifestyle, don't smoke. Don't drink too much because alcohol is now tied to cancer. Try to eat more fruits and vegetables, less fat, and you'll let us know how to do that. Yeah. Exercise, all these things decrease your chance of developing breast cancer. These are things you can control. You can't control your genetics. Yeah. If you have the Angelina Jolie gene, quote unquote, it's the BRCA gene.
And that the DNA testing?
There's DNA testing, and there's going to be more DNA testing because technology and research is evolving. There's better screening now. The digital mammography is more accurate, more sensitive. There's
so
also, we talked about 3D, which is
digital thermography.
No, digital mammography.
Mammography,
it's it's more accurate, more sensitive, picks up breast cancer, so the technology is better. There's a new emerging technology which we don't use yet. It's state of the art, and that's not state of the art. It's the 3D, 3D mammography. If you do 3D mammography, you will likely get called back for they'll find false positives. So it looks very promising, but it's not state of the art.
Well, let me ask you something on this, on this topic. Angelina Jolie did a DNA test, some sort of test.
BRCA. She was
BRCA.
BRCA
Tell us
gene.
a little bit more about the BRCA.
The BRCA gene, statistically, I can't tell you what % of cancers are BRCA
tell
positive.
Me about
that I don't remember.
Test.
The test, it's a blood test, but insurance will cover it only if you meet certain criteria. You have to have family members that have had early ovarian or breast cancer. So if you meet those criteria, or you could pay for it yourself if you want, it's very expensive. So that increases your chance of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, prostate cancer, probably colon cancer, and pancreatic cancer.
So that's great. I
it's
mean, it's a way for people to at least have the opportunity to see if it's genetic, if they're predisposed for it somehow.
that you can control.
Predisposition does not necessarily mean
No, but it gives you
will become a
yeah,
patient.
but it gives you a little heads up
Right.
to be able to kind of, you know, take some
Be more
prevention.
aware, most
Yeah,
probably.
be more aware, preventative measures. And
Exactly. And speaking of DNA, in my family, we have a history of cancer. Most of my family members have died from cancer, so I was always someone that was exceptionally aware of it. And thinking, oh my God, I don't want to reach the age of 33 and also have cancer. And I think that's what prompted me to look at the whole DNA thing and say, well, look, how can I reverse that cycle in my family? And that's when I started doing a lot of the ancient Greek, looking at ancient Greek texts and studying the wisdoms and studying nutrition and so on, and managed to somehow just reverse even the likelihood of having it.
right.
In my body.
I want to talk about
So I think it is
food that
possible
prevents
to do
cancer.
it. Yeah.
Going back to Eva, so this BRCA test is a blood test.
It's a
and
blood test.
They can ask their gynecologist for it?
Gynecologist, internist, or your any
doctor.
doctor who's taking care of you can send the gene, and if you qualify, insurance will cover it. And yes, do the best you can not to get cancer by diet and exercise and lifestyle. I agree with you 100%. But
Sometimes that's not enough.
Sometimes you just get unlucky despite your best efforts.
I think the checks are still important. You
Absolutely.
can't
So
sort of
you have
dismiss
to-
those
right.
just because you've
you
got
have
the,
to get screened.
Totally agree.
You have to have your
yeah.
annual mammogram and breast exam, even if you have the best lifestyle in the world.
I agree. But also, recently I read there was a test with saliva.
Is that a genetic? It's probably some genetic
Yes,
test.
it's a genetic test.
But I don't know what that is. There's a lot of new
Ask
stuff
your
emerging.
doctors, girls, ladies, women.
So it's interesting, actually, that you mentioned that. Ask your doctors, because I've been reading about Rita Wilson, the Greek-American wife of Tom Hanks. And what happened with her is, as you might know, she was diagnosed with cancer, and she did have a double mastectomy, although she was at a very early age of her illness. Thus, she didn't need chemo or she didn't need any further treatment. But what's interesting about it is that her first test was a negative. And she said at the New York Times that despite the fact that her first test was a negative, she felt that something was not quite right. So she asked for a second opinion, and she became the advocate for herself. And it turned out that she was right. It turned out that now she's a cancer-free woman who returned
that's
after
amazing.
a month back to her work, back to the stage on Broadway. So it's interesting to me that at some point you actually not only have to be very diligent and proactive about making sure that you're testing yourself, but you also have to trust your gut, and you also have to make sure that you are your own advocate.
And I'm going to ask Calliope here now.
Yes, no, I was going to say that it sounds that, she was really listening to herself and following what her body was telling her. She wasn't just going with what the doctor says. She listened to herself, and that's so important.
And I'm curious, I want to talk, but I'm curious, what kind of test did she do that they found that it was negative?
It was not something that I found in the interview that I read, but on her, she gave a very lengthy interview on the New York Times, and I think it all started with a normal mammogram and
An MRI. She might have had a breast MRI.
But she really also faced the fear, right? Because a lot of people would have avoided that. And they would go with the diagnosis because it will serve to just deny some of it. Because it is so scary to have a diagnosis of cancer. Yeah. I mean, really, it's one of the most stressful events in a woman's life and in anyone's life who gets this diagnosis.
Let me ask you something, Calliope. People say that, there's so much information out there that if you're so stressed out, some of the causes of cancer, psychological causes of cancer, can you enlighten us on a little bit of that? Does stress cause cancer?
Well, okay. Yes, stress causes a lot of things, a lot of bodily issues, but I don't know that I would want to really say necessarily it's stress. There's so many factors that cause cancer. We know that, right? There's so many factors, and research is inconclusive. Every day we hear this food or the environment, this toxicity. I think, and you will you will know more than me.
It's a gray zone. It's
a gray zone, but I
doesn't
think
make it better.
maybe heredity is the only factor that we know it's sort of directly correlated.
Right,
it doesn't mean, though, as we said before, that everybody, because your mother had cancer, you're going to get cancer. But I think the correlation is there more than anything else. The rest is,
Our culture isn't very open to admitting or talking about it. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, my thoughts. Well, I know still people who are talking, toxorkismeno. They can't talk about the word. They don't want to face the disease and the fears that come along with it. And unless we face the fears, we can't do anything about them. We're just going to hide. And then we're not going to do much. And as you were saying, that people may not go for whatever test that they need. So facing the fears is really extremely important.
Eva, why don't you tell our audience the checklist? What is the checklist for
In terms of what?
keeping our health care in check? What is
Listen,
the women's health care
an ounce
list?
of prevention is worth a pound of cure, for sure. As the Greeks would say, you just have to be prepared. Get your mammogram at 40, start or earlier if you need to. Get your genetic testing if it runs in your family. Self-examine, and if you feel anything.
How can you learn how to self-examine?
Your doctor can teach you. Your doctor can teach you how to do it. Basically, you're feeling for lumps and bumps in your new lumps, new marbles, something new in your breast. You're looking for discharge. You're looking for skin changes.
Would it hurt at all?
No, it's painless. That's the thing. It's painless. So you have to ask your doctor to teach you. So you could do it every first of the month if you have a routine. You have your annual exam by hand, and your annual exam on the mammogram. And then what you can do with your lifestyle to increase your chances of not developing cancer. Again, you could be a stellar patient and still get sick. It's not something you did wrong.
That's true.
And stress may indirectly cause you to get cancer because you don't take care of yourself. You may go and buy McDonald's because you're rushing because you're stressed versus making a healthy meal. So it may not be stress. It may be what you do because you're stressed.
And then there's a lot of factors, once someone has been diagnosed, that it becomes a stressful situation.
Oh, absolutely.
It's something the family has to face.
Yes, there's so many.
What are your
the
suggestions?
Emotional and the psychosocial impact in any person who gets cancer, the diagnosis and the treatment, and the family, the people who care for this person, it's huge. There's so many, first of all, the feelings that the person experiences, we talked about the fear of the cancer itself, the treatments, how it would change our lives.
Fear of dying.
Of course, the fear of dying is major. It really is, it bringing us close to our mortality. And are we ready?
Yeah.
Are we ready to speak about death? And then there's anger that can come with it. Why me? There's nothing fair about cancer. No one deserves it. But, people will have the blaming ourselves. We didn't do the mammograms. I didn't go to the doctors. I didn't drink my smoothie. All of this together with, of course, problems with families and the people who care, because they're also going through their own emotions about it. And there could be conflicts because of that. There's also other psychosocial issues like insurances. Do they have people? How am I going to pay for my treatments?
Yes, these are all very important issues.
I wrote down some things. I don't know if I remember. Yeah, it's also the sense of loss and grief, because with the diagnosis of cancer and the treatments that are involved, our life changes. Okay, so there are unwanted changes.
And it is a mutilation. It is a mutilation. Either we want to face it or not.
Exactly.
When you have to remove your breasts, it's very traumatic.
And I'm sorry, yes.
And we hope we don't get to that point ever.
But it hits directly to our femininity and our identity as women.
Right.
The breast, the deformity that may come, after the surgery, how we view our bodies. Also the hair falling after, chemotherapy. It really hits the core sense of who we are, the femininity.
But positive thinking will help cancer patients
we'll talk
get
about
through
that.
it.
Of course.
And definitely the support of the family.
Of course, we don't want to go to despair, okay? There's a lot of hope. We know so much now about how to cope with cancer.
It's
how
becoming
to
a
cope
chronic
with the
disease.
feelings.
Yeah, it's
Excuse
become
me?
a chronic disease, basically.
This is, I
Yes.
think, the most hopeful thing that you can tell about cancer right now, that there are so many cancers, not only breast cancer, that are becoming a chronic, manageable disease. Yes, it's not necessarily always pleasant, but the fact that you are there and you're going to be there with your family, with your friends, go on with your life. I think this is a wonderful message that everybody
Absolutely.
needs to take.
Absolutely.
Like the takeaway of any kind of
Yes.
conversation about cancer should be that
Yes.
things are moving along and they're getting better and we're getting to know more.
There's progress. So if you get diagnosed, don't panic. Find a good oncologist or breast surgeon. Go with a friend or family member because you will not remember what people tell you. You don't go alone. You'll be overwhelmed because you'll be so upset and so worried and so frightened. Take a trusted person with you and go and see a healthcare provider immediately and just know what your best options are.
Yeah.
And act on it. And don't forget, it doesn't mean you're going to die tomorrow if you get diagnosed with breast cancer. It means that you have a path to follow. And your path
Exactly.
will be different depending on how early you're detected. It's not a death sentence.
It's
It
not.
is
You guys have to stop thinking.
it's a
Everybody
big
has to stop
task.
thinking like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on how you detect it and how you approach it, the attitude. Okay, so what I would really suggest as the best coping method, it's connect with others, connect with yourself deeper, connect with the larger, with life. And what I mean by that is with connecting with others, I'll start with that, is with the doctors first of all. Make sure you have a doctor you trust and that you feel that you're cared for. Connect with other people, your family and friends that you can trust and you can share openly and talk about your feelings, speak about it, cry, speak to other people who have gone through the same experience, join support groups, speak to psychologists and other mental health professionals who can help you deal with all the emotions. And then when I say connect to yourself, really it's to face all the feelings, and express them and share them, but don't drown into the feelings. Don't become the cancer. Okay, the cancer is a part of you.
Bravo. This is important.
So this is very important. So it's the attitude. And that's what it's really important that we remember that and we approach it with that attitude. We also learn through this process about ourselves more, about our strengths, the things that give us joy in life, and we can do so much, really. I can talk for hours about that, but I will, and we'll come back.
Yeah, we're going to come back. I mean, these women are amazing. I love them. I'm very happy they're here today, and we have so much information. You guys are a plethora of information that you're offering our viewers. So, Eva, the first steps are to find an oncologist you're comfortable
A
with.
breast oncologist or breast surgeon, so you get advice. Bring a friend with to the visit with you because you will not remember everything you hear. You'll be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And that's step one, and just do it.
Yeah, just move
just do it.
forward
Have
with
your
the
mammogram and do it.
steps. Yes.
Right.
So, do you suggest seeing a few doctors, or with one you're good? Do you want to?
Well, it depends. If you're going to have surgery, some people want to have a second opinion. There's nothing wrong. I always recommend people getting a second opinion if they're going to get cut. But don't take 3 months to get a second opinion.
of
I get
course.
opinion one on this day, and a week later have your second opinion. I mean, get moving, and then make a decision. Make it important. You can go online and read. You're going to read terrible stories if you go online, but just keep that in mind. You can talk about dying. It doesn't mean you're going to die, but if you're afraid of dying, you can say that. That's fine too. It doesn't kill you to say that. You're going to be fine.
Well, I'm going to introduce the audience now to a wonderful oncologist who is Chief of Surgical Oncology at Lenox Hill Hospital. Dr. Stephanie Bernick has a few things to tell us.
Hi ladies, my name is Dr. Stephanie Bernick. I am Chief of Surgical Oncology at Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City, and I'm here to talk to you about your breast health. Breast cancer is detected in a few different ways. It can be detected on physical exam. There could be an abnormal lump in the breast, and then we go on to do other tests to prove whether or not that's a breast cancer or not. The other ways we detect breast cancer are through mammography and ultrasound, and also screening MRIs for high-risk populations. Screening mammograms usually begin when a woman turns 40, unless she has a significant family history of breast cancer. The person that normally sends a woman for her screening mammogram is either the gynecologist or the primary medical doctor. A mammogram is an X-ray of the breast. Many people ask if a mammogram is safe. you probably get more radiation from flying to New York to Los Angeles than you do from a single mammogram. So it is very important to do your mammogram and not be afraid of the test and go for your annual tests. There are many ways that we treat breast cancer. We use many different modalities. We use radiation, chemotherapy, hormonal therapy, and sometimes even immunotherapy. The treatments are constantly changing, which makes it an exciting field, and the survival is improving with that as well. So for all the women out there listening, there are things you can do to decrease the chance of getting breast cancer. You can lead a healthy lifestyle, and I think everyone knows what that is. Exercise, eat well, don't drink a lot of alcohol, and don't smoke. All of those things will help reduce your chance of getting breast cancer. Family history is very important when you're dealing with breast cancer. There are certain genetic mutations that can predispose a woman to getting breast cancer. But just because you don't have a family history of breast cancer doesn't mean you're at risk. And I don't want people to think that if they have no one in their family that had breast cancer that they are not at risk. 1 in 8 women in the United States will end up with breast cancer during their lifetime. At Lenox Hill, we have a great team of doctors that are all involved in the care of women that are diagnosed with breast cancer. We have coordinated care. I work very closely with the plastic surgeon, with the radiation oncologist, with the medical oncologist, and the radiologist, and we all work together to ensure that a woman's health is of primary importance.
All right, ladies, did you see how positive Dr. Bernick was? And that's how we have to keep it. We have to keep it positive, Calliope, correct? That is the message of the day.
Absolutely.
Positive.
It's the attitude of hope that we should keep. And really to also maintain a quality of life. Really continue with your normal activities. Don't allow all these feelings and the negativity to drown you. Continue with your life as much as possible. If you can work, work. Try to do whatever you could, with limits, of course, your own limits now, but try.
Should people seek therapy during this time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, of course, I'm biased. I'm a psychologist. What will I say? But I see people all the time that we help people to go through these very difficult stages and really come to another place of being with cancer.
And overcoming.
Well, overcoming, yes.
As
because
positive as you can be.
That, and also because overcoming is good, because we know from a lot of research out there that if you allow the negativity to take over and you become extremely anxious or depressed, there's studies out there that show that your chances of living are less, with support. And when you really take a positive attitude about the whole thing, finding ways to be positive, then you help yourself not only psychologically, but even physically.
What kind of advice can we offer people to bring the family in and help the situation?
Yes.
Instead of trying to ignore the situation.
Absolutely. This is a huge topic, and I mean, we really need another panel for that. But because the families, depending on who they are, how they handle their situations in general, and how close the relationships really are, they can be really supportive, or they can be problems. So it's tricky. I would say to try to find the people from your family or your friends who truly understand, who can really be with difficult situations. Some people cannot handle it, and some others can really handle it, and they feel that this enriches their lives. Mm-hmm. So it's really, families also need to know that they're going to be affected too, and they may need support. There's no question that they're not going to be affected in one way or another.
Well, I mean, Sylvia has a lot of support groups, but before we get to the support groups, I also want to talk about food and exercise. I mean,
and no smoking.
And no smoking, and say what you were saying during the break.
Oh, and stress. I mean, I think stress indirectly will make you smoke and drink more and give you habits that can lead to cancer, not necessarily the stress itself, but what you do with it.
And if you predispose all of that on top of it, it's a bad mix. And as a fitness advocate, what I would like to say to the audience is, in general, we should be exercising at least 3 times a week. A total fitness program that includes cardiovascular health, strength training, and flexibility, very important, endurance and strength together. I suggest if you can't do it in the gym, try and get a personal trainer or try and go to some classes of some sort, but get moving, people. Get moving. We have to burn and let the stress go. The stress in general. Stress has to come out through exercise is a good way. It is a good avenue to release stress. And of course, while you're releasing your stress and you're doing active meditation, as we call it, it is very good to also get your body in shape. And food, Maria. Food.
Well, it's interesting because I'm just about to tie everything in. I mean, as Hippocrates used to say, if someone let medicine be thy food and food thy medicine, and in addition to that, think good thoughts, and if we gave every person 30 minutes of exercise each day, we would have the perfect solution for good health.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, as a health coach, when I work with clients, I don't just address food, because for disease to thrive in a body, it must be acidic and it must have inflammation. So, for example, things that inflame the body are things like,
What can cause the inflammation?
Inflammation is caused by smoking, by worry, not feeling loneliness, not having support networks. It's caused by alcohol, because sugar, white flours, processed foods, anything cooked in a microwave causes inflammation. Tinned food causes inflammation. So there's a whole host and a whole list that I have, and I've actually written a blog on this on my website.
Maria has
if people want to get the list
Yes.
of what I'm talking about, free, it's free of charge on my website. And also something that I've done is I've put these wisdoms in a book from the ancient Greeks that tie everything around this table together. So if we want to live in a body that is more alkalized and not acidic and reduce the inflammation, the things that we're looking for is thinking happy thoughts, coming from a place of joy, doing things that make us happy, exercise. Maybe one day we might want to do yoga to sort of calm and be peace. Another day, cardio is very important. Having, good sources of water. So I'm not talking about tap water. Tap water
and drinking a lot of water
is acidic,
but health
because of the
good
fluoride.
water, as you
exactly,
just said.
spring water or reverse osmosis.
Because there's a lot of things, unfortunately, that are also linked to the causes of cancer and other diseases, for that matter.
Yes.
Because the body reacts differently to the environmental toxicity that's going on, and it might react in cancer. It might react in something else. It might react with different types of diseases. However, we need to be present and we need to be educated on the information of how we can prevent all of these things by being careful of the type of water we're drinking, because there's chlorine in water.
Although New York has the best water.
Yes,
like,
we're very lucky,
have
guys.
to say that us
Yeah.
living
Yes.
in New York, and there
Yes.
was actually a study very recently that our tap water, the water that comes out of our home faucets, is much better than the filter water that we might have at home, like the
Wow.
filter systems, because it turns out that the water there are so many checks for the quality of our water. And the quality in itself is so good that we are really privileged, at least us who live in New York.
Yes,
So
and it's
yeah.
so
we
much
have
better
to
than
be-
bottled water.
Bottle causes other
Not
problems.
plastic
Yes, it's
bottled
the-
water. So
Yeah.
that's a huge topic.
I think at the end of the day, it's harmony. It's harmonizing the acidity that goes into our body and harmonizing it with the alkalinity. So, for example, I always say to people it's very important to have a rainbow of foods every day. But as Hippocrates said, let medicine be thy food, food thy medicine. We're not talking about conventional. We're talking about genetically modified, free, chemical-free. So we're talking about organic, because the body and the DNA of the body does not recognize these chemicals. We were not made up to have genetically modified food put into our body and chemicals. So, for example, something...
Pesticides, and let's name some of
All
these
of-
things that might be in.
All of it. So, for example, I say to people, very important to have herbs and greens, because greens detoxify the body. So, for example, cilantro is the number one detoxifier of metals and everything from our environment. For example, if we want good heart health and also very anti-cancer are the reds, especially tomatoes. Tomatoes are heightened in terms of the antioxidant properties when they're cooked. So they almost double, triple. So we're having reds. In ancient Greece, they used to use pomegranate. And even today, everybody says pomegranates are good and antioxidants.
What are some of the top antioxidant foods that we should have on our list?
Absolutely. I think the first one I would have to say is fruit and vegetables, and they would have to be organic. Especially for someone that does have cancer, it's very important that they go organic. The second very important thing that I introduced in my life is baking soda and apple cider vinegar. Why? Because baking soda and apple cider vinegar alkalize the body. And I always encourage people to have either lemon in the morning, a little bit of baking soda in water, or apple cider vinegar. And also Hippocrates.
How would they drink this together? Like baking soda with apple cider vinegar?
No, it's separate. So for example, you either have water with half a teaspoon of baking soda, or as I do is I squeeze a whole lemon, and then I put spices. That was going to be my next thing, spices. So I put turmeric, cayenne pepper, honey, and ginger. So what that does is it flushes out the system and alkalizes the whole body and gets it ready for the day.
Maria, what are you going to show us later?
Well, later on, I'm incorporating tomatoes, which is, a really potent sort of antioxidant. And I'm combining herbs. And I'm going to make the beautiful pies of Santorini. So I thought, something fun, easy that people can make at home. So we're going to make that later on.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to it. Now, we said support. You were saying earlier?
I was saying about, she was talking about nourishing the body, and I was thinking of how do we nourish our soul. And the things that we need to have in our lives, especially if we get a diagnosis like that. In general, we should have more of music and dance. 10 minutes in the morning, dance. It's very important. You're saying about exercise and a whole routine.
That's exercising.
But I know that even but even few minutes of physical exercise, but I think dance in particular, or music. Another thing that is extremely important, hug people. Hug your pets.
People
or
you know, though.
We
Just
know.
hug people you
Yes, but we know now
Stop
there is
hugging.
this neuropeptide called oxytocin that's released in the brain, and it's a
Isn't this
very
the
beautiful.
being in love hormone?
Yes,
Oxytocin?
yes,
Yes, it is.
exactly.
And serotonin
exactly.
is also
But
very
we
healing.
know that it's helping
Exercise does.
our soul, I mean,
Gives you
our psychology and our physiology now with oxytocin. So really hug us as much as you can. They say like 30
But these
seconds.
are the things that were practiced in ancient Greece that I have in my practice. So for example, I incorporate dream therapy, therapia. I incorporate music therapy, light therapy, even colors can end up calming someone. So I guess, you can't pick one component, is what you're saying, and everybody's saying around this table. For healing, it needs to be a total approach. And my wish is that those ancient wisdoms and practices which incorporate hugging and contact and everything come back, and that the doctor of today doesn't just look at chemicals and conventional medicine, but incorporates some of
the
these
ancient Greeks
other
had so
options.
much.
Right,
The
and
ancient
of
Greeks had a lot
course
to say.
they
Even on
did.
cancer, they had a lot to say.
Yeah,
if you go to
absolutely.
Asclepial,
Right.
they have it written in the
I
stones
mean,
on
they
the walls.
used, for example, walnuts and did a mixture, and they'd put on, different sort of cancers that were coming off the skin, and believed, walnuts were good. And we know that walnuts are good for brain health, omega-3, good fats.
Another
for
thing that I
reducing
really
inflammation.
feel very much for is really developing some spirituality. And by spirituality, I don't mean the religion in the strict sense. I mean that people begin to pay attention to the environment, to the fact that we are part of this larger life, and really embrace that, get to know that, connect with the larger in whatever way feels right to you.
Yes.
It could be with nature, it could be with
Whatever
whatever
feels
you
right to
call
you.
God. I call God this great omnipotent dimension that we're all part of. Just connect with that something larger. It's extremely important.
And it's good if you do follow our Greek Orthodox faith. Go and seek out a spiritual father.
And it's actually good that you mentioned that, because the Greek Orthodox Diocese and the Philoptochos organizations are actually offering support for cancer patients. And what I also found out is that different communities, and this is how our community is mostly organized around churches, different communities do have support groups for Greek Americans who need this kind of support at a trying time as is a diagnosis of this kind. The other thing that it is also important is that for a lot of people, having the support of a Greek-speaking doctor is also very important. So, and there are resources. There is the Hellenic Medical Society of New York, and you can Google all that, and you can find all the information you need. They have a tool for people who feel like they will be more comfortable with a Greek-speaking doctor, sometimes when you want to express deepest fears, it might be easier to do so in your mother tongue if it is not English.
Absolutely.
So this is also a consideration. I think that it is, I'm not an expert on how spirituality affects you, but there are resources for people, and there are a lot of ways to deal with something that it is difficult, but it's not unsurpassable. And I think that this is the main idea here.
We have, in positive psychology, there is a term that we use, post-traumatic growth. And this is something that, you know, we can grow from any trauma, not only from something like cancer, because we can learn so much if we approach it with this attitude.
Right.
Yeah. You know, we can really appreciate life so much more, appreciate our relationships, get rid of toxic relationships. I mean,
So
this is something that we can change our
talking
lives.
about relationships, I think what's important also is that there are, I mean, obviously it is always best to see someone who can actually help you with the knowledge and they have all around attitude towards what you're dealing with. But there are also other resources for people. The American Cancer Society has different support groups. There are support groups for Reach to Recovery for people who are newly diagnosed with cancer. There is the I Can Cope. This is an online service for people where they can talk one-on-one, but also for their families and how they are going to deal with their loved ones who are diagnosed with cancer. There is the American Society Cancer Survivors Network, where people and physicians can exchange information on new developments. There is the Center Support Community, the Cancer Support Community, which is a community of people. Support groups might not necessarily be for everybody,
But it's good that they're out there.
but it's wonderful that they're out there.
They're out
so
there.
what I think is important is that no one is alone.
No one is
You're
alone.
not alone in dealing with something as huge as such a diagnosis. You're not alone in dealing with it. And within our community, within the Greek American community, there are resources.
Sylvia, thank you for being on our show, and thank you for all that wonderful information on the support groups and the statistics on the community. We're going to look forward to having you here on the show again.
My
with
pleasure,
more
looking forward
topics.
to it. That would be great.
All right, ladies, we're going to cut to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, Elias Karalekas is here to talk to us about health insurance.
Dr. Naida Women's Health and Aesthetic Center offers you all your healthcare and beauty needs. Dr. Naida and her professional team offer all gynecological healthcare services. Dr. Naida Center now offers the latest non-invasive appearance enhancement services with our professional staff. Dr. Naida's Women's Health and Aesthetic Center strives to give a complete understanding and compassion to each woman. Trust your health and beauty in the hands of professionals.
Welcome back, everyone, and today's topic is breast cancer and women's health. And joining us now is partner of Astra Insurance Agency, Elias Karalekas, who's going to give us all the information about health insurance, because unfortunately, cancer can be expensive.
Thank you for having me back.
Ilia, you're great, and I want to know what is going on with health insurance. What is going on in the United States?
Well, actually, the insurance companies have actually requested a 15 to 30% increase in their premiums for 2016 because they don't have, they're not getting enough revenue in. So they're probably gonna have to increase their rates now. That's what's happening. So that means that Obamacare is not really working the way they expected.
Eva, what do you have to say about that?
Another reason to have your mammogram. An ounce of prevention is a pound of cure, because it's costly to have cancer. And a lot of my patients get bankrupted by their cancer diagnosis, have to sell their apartments to pay for their chemo treatments. It's really tragic. So if you can catch it early, you save a lot of money. That's another reason to go for your testing.
So I think it's that every year you're allowed to do a mammogram and a pap smear, correct?
Well, listen, you're allowed to do whatever you want with the plan. It's just that you have to get, whatever you do, you have to get pre-authorized pretty much now. You can't just go do an examination because you feel like it. You have to get everything pre-authorized. Make sure that your insurance takes the doctors that you're going to. And pay your insurance premiums, because you don't want to have any lapse in coverage, because if you have a lapse in coverage, then you're not covered.
Oh my God.
It's so different in Australia. There's none of this pre-authorization. The premiums here, I almost had a heart attack when I moved from one country to another. And I was at a loss as to why they're so high, and why you have to get like permission for doctors and this and that, whereas in Australia, you just go to whichever doctor that you want,
Wow.
provided you have a referral from, you know, your family doctor.
It's a different system.
It's very
Yeah.
different, yeah. Very
But
different.
Elia, I mean, you know, what is it that somebody should be aware of when they have cancer? How can they help? Rather, what type of insurance would be the best to have that can cover what's necessary?
I think it would be a good example would be a young girl called me up yesterday who she's on Cobra, and she's paying about $800 a month for insurance. And she's like to me, "Can you find me a cheaper plan?" And I said, "Listen, finding a cheaper plan right now is not really the answer, because right now you have your set doctors, and in your professionals, so therefore there's no reason to switch anything around." But she also has a very expensive plan. She has a PPO. So because she has a PPO, I wouldn't take her to another plan that has less benefits, because if she has less benefits, that means she's probably going to also pay more out of pocket. So just because she's paying, let's say, $800 a month now, and I bring her to a plan that's $500, she might have a lot more out-of-pocket expenses, because some of those doctors might not take that new plan that I'm going to give her. So I just say, listen, stay put, you know, contact me in November when it's open enrollment, and then we'll see what happens. So.
Yes, and it is really difficult because a lot of us, I include myself in that because I'm a provider, we don't take insurances, and I take only one panel. Actually, I'm only on one panel, and the reason is that there are a lot of the requirements, and also, you know, insurances have not followed, I feel, the cost of living, and they're not giving us what we're supposed to make to be able to keep our practices going.
How do they determine
That's
the
what I
prices?
don't
Yeah.
understand. How do they determine, you know, for all these years I'm a provider, there has been no increase.
Well, you have more liability now because you have to see more patients, you have to hire more staff, and you're not making more money.
Well, that's why I choose to be out of network primarily, and only take one so I can balance it.
Do you know what an out-of-network policy costs, roughly, for a family? Do you have any idea?
I don't know now. I know in the past, but
What
right
does
now.
it cost for someone to be out of network?
Let's just say a family. A single rate is about $900. A family rate could range anywhere between $2,200 to $2,700 a month.
So what kind of a plan do you recommend for someone to have to be able to, knock on wood, something would happen? What would be the best plan that would cover most of what would be needed to fight cancer?
Well, look, let's say you take a healthy person. A healthy person doesn't need to have the Rolls Royce of insurance. So you start with a basic plan. Let's just say basic HMO plan for now, just talk simple. And if they develop something, that's when they increase to a plan that's more expensive. So
What would it cover, an expensive plan, if somebody was to be diagnosed with cancer?
in-network doctors mostly, the hospitals, the doctors, the medicine.
Is it all covered? Is chemotherapy covered? Are all these things covered?
You have to go to your doctors and make sure everything is pre-authorized so you don't have any surprises. But holistic doctors are not covered, and out-of-network doctors are usually not covered if you just have a basic in-network plan. You can't go out of network.
Right. So what is your advice to people watching us today about healthcare and choosing the right healthcare plan?
Well, it goes back to what you ladies said, you know, watch your diet, health, exercise, do all that stuff, and try to prevent having to have cancer. Try to prevent that whole thing from happening, because if it does, you don't know how fast it's going to spread. I mean, there is no time period for somebody. It varies. And
when you get older, you should get a PPO, basically.
Again, you know, we're not 65 to have Medicare to have the best insurance right now. So,
But a 50-year-old should probably have a PPO. 45, 50.
does that mean every 50-year-old can drive a BMW?
No, but if you can get a PPO,
That's the problem, you see.
But
That doesn't work that way with insurance. People know how to range what they can afford. With health insurance, it's not really a range according to a level of your income.
Well, how can I tell everybody, listen, you're 50 years old, you need to spend $900 a month on health insurance?
Isn't that what you should be telling people?
You think they have the money?
No, but what do you say if they... I agree with you, but what can we do? What's your advice, Leah, really?
Listen, you really, there's some luck here. I mean, you want to be healthy, because I say like this, anybody who's in the range of 50 to 65 right now with the way healthcare is, is going to have some sort of a problem because they're going to have to shift doctors and get uncomfortable with this whole Affordable Care Act that's been created, because you're now going to have to change a primer. You might have to change a specialist. And unfortunately, it's going to take you out of your comfort zone, which means you probably have to spend more money. So there is really no exact answer, because there's no plan that covers everything.
Yeah.
You know, every plan has limitations now, and unless you could spend as an individual $900 a month for a plan, if you have cancer, let's say, it's a very hard situation. It's not like it was 5 years ago where, you know, you're paying $450, you have a PPO, you could go to Texas, Philadelphia, go to those special clinics, because that Empire plan that we all were familiar with, you could do all those things. Now you can't. Everything is so limited.
Right, and I think that PPO are not offered at individuals, right? You cannot.
Not right now, no.
They're only in-network doctors that you can go to if you have an individual plan.
Correct.
Right? Only if you work for a large corporation or an institution, I think you have more choices.
Correct. And let me ask you one question right now. What happens if all these corporations one day say, you know what, we can't afford this health insurance for our employees?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? I mean, that's another topic in itself. But for right now, we want you all to be covered. So reach out, find out what's best for you, go online and see what health insurance suits your budget, basically, because we do all need to be covered. Healthcare is important. Our healthcare, the whole package includes health insurance, unfortunately, and we have to have it. You know, our topic today is breast cancer, but men do suffer also from breast cancer. 1 in 1,000 men. And a group that is fighting cancer in general, prostate cancer in particular, is Peter Lados's Prostate Cancer Foundation. They do a wonderful job. I mean, support the foundations, everyone. Greek American support all the Greek American cancer foundations. So, Ilya, thank you for all the information.
Thank you.
And we look forward to having you again on another episode of our show.
Anytime.
And we're going to cut to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to be cooking with Maria. What are we making?
We're going to make the tomato filo pies with Santorini.
All right. So be sure to tune back in.
Dr. Naida Women's Health and Aesthetic Center offers you all your healthcare and beauty needs. Dr. Naida and her professional team offer all gynecological healthcare services. Dr. Naida Center now offers the latest non-invasive appearance enhancement services with our professional staff. Dr. Naida's Women's Health and Aesthetic Center strives to give a complete understanding and compassion to each woman. Trust your health and beauty in the hands of professionals.
And we're back, and this is my favorite part of the show. We're going to get to cook with Maria.
Yeah, and the whole team, so everybody's getting involved. So did you want to introduce the dish, or should I just
You
launch
introduce.
it?
This is your dish.
All right. Well, this is a very high antioxidant dish. I did discuss before the herbs, which are very sort of detoxifying.
What are we making today?
Well, we're making the beautiful filo pies of Santorini.
Filo pies of
Yeah,
Santorini.
a lot of people don't realize every region of Greece has its own pie.
Oh.
So Mykonos makes caramelized onions. Santorini, makes tomato ones. If you go to Grevena, they make with mushroom. If you go to Florina, bell peppers. So there are so many pies, and yet we don't see these pies on any menu. So our ingredients are extra virgin olive oil, which we're going to need for brushing, and of course it's from Greece. I've got some beautiful tomatoes here, so I've got some cherry tomatoes and heirloom tomatoes, just so we can get nice color, and it's summer and they're in season. Some Greek feta, and this is like 50% goat and sheep.
And the best feta is Greek, guys.
Absolutely.
Not any other, because that's the
Yeah.
authentic feta.
Yeah.
If in order for it to say feta, it has to be...
It has to be Greek. But here in America, though, and in Australia, because we're not governed by the laws, they can call feta anybody can.
Oh.
It's only in the European Union that only the Greeks can call it feta.
Okay.
And I'm using one here made by a monastery.
Oh.
I like to use a lot of monastery products, as is my olive oil, primarily because of the good energy. So I've got some fresh oregano, which is from Greece, in particular Thaitos, and some beautiful fresh green onions, dill, mint, which has its origins in ancient Greece, parsley, which has its origins in ancient Rome, and of course basil or basilico, which comes from the Greek word basil, regal, royal, healing herb. So every ingredient has its story. And of course avga, salt and pepper, and of course filo pastry. So that is it. So what we might do is I might allocate some of get the team to help me out.
They're too quiet here. They got that.
So exactly.
All
so
right,
the
let's
first thing,
go.
I'll need someone just to.
What are we doing?
We just want
We're
to.
smashing the feta.
We're not smashing. Just crumble it. So we're
going to
crumbling.
crumble the
and I'm
feta.
going to get one of you guys, if you could please, just to break 2 of these eggs in here and just to beat them. Okay. And we can put those shells in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start just cutting some of these tomatoes. Now, what you can do is you can pinch like that, or I'm going to cut them because we're also well dressed. The last thing I want is to have that all over.
We can cook and be
Yeah.
well dressed, right, ladies? In the
Exactly.
50s, in the 50s, the ladies were
Exactly. And
wearing their dresses and cooking.
yeah, and what I wanted to say
Bravo,
is
Calliope.
every region, professional, and look at the color of those eggs, beautiful organic
Because
eggs.
they're organic, cage-free.
Exactly. So every region of Greece has its own pie. This is the one of Santorini. Some people may not have seen this pie, but as I was saying earlier on, there's also the caramelized onion pie of Mykonos. If you go to Grevena, they make it with mushrooms and so on and so on. Now, you know what I might get someone to do here, but be very, very careful, is put your hand there and pinch. So if you pinch, it comes
All
out.
we're doing is pinching. I
Yeah,
got it.
yeah. So
Okay.
just like that, and I'm going to start chopping some of these beautiful green onions that are kind of rolling a bit off the board, but we're there. So the thing that I love about pies is everything just goes into a bowl. So it's minimal fuss, and it's just.
Okay, that's okay.
Oh, we're already.
We're not doing very well here.
Oh, dear. Well, I won't be having you guys as a sous chef. That's sure. I'm putting some dill. Dill. And of course, in ancient Greece, dill used to be used
Don't pinch.
as a diet. So,
Note to self.
chopping some dill here.
Towards you.
No.
Pinching the tomatoes. Please wear an apron when you're pinching the tomatoes. You did not tell us, chef.
Does this? Does this?
Apron when pinching the tomatoes.
You know what? Have fun. Cooking's about having fun. We're just all laughing, having a great time. Well, you know.
Not anything?
All right, no, Calliope, you're wearing white, and we don't trust you in white.
So I'm nearly finished. I'm just putting a bit of mint.
Enough.
Yeah, I'm nearly. Well, in a minute. Well, what I can get you to do is maybe put the eggs in there and the feta if we give that. So we might as well put all of that in there.
Okay.
This is the wonderful thing about this.
So
You
we'll
just
put everything together.
yeah, everything goes together. I'm just chopping a little bit of basil and parsley here. Very careful with basil. It's a very delicate herb, so always have a very sharp knife and chop it. So everything can go in there. Now, in ancient Greece, the first pie to be made was with eggs, honey, and phyllo.
Really?
Later on, that was it, yeah. And it's very similar to like the tiropita now that we have. Later on, each region of Greece started adding its own vegetable or fruit. So you'll find some of these cheese pies are actually made sweet as well. So for example, I make this pie and put cherries.
Oh.
So I make a cherry pie. With sort of, different herbs.
So this is an authentic Santorinian dish.
This is the authentic, yeah. I've kept it really authentic.
And it's antioxidant. There's a lot of antioxidants.
Exactly. I'll just crumble this a little bit more, just so that it can go
For
everywhere.
accent, a little bit more.
Yes, I think we need, because,
We love that
We need-
Australian accent.
yeah, fantastic. So we'll just put that like so. And what I'm going to do is get someone to add a pinch of oregano.
Okay.
There,
Tomate
pinch
po
of
dyan,
oregano, may tomate, pinch
Salt
of
and
oregano,
pepper.
season with salt and pepper. So we're there, and then add the eggs and mix that through. So we want the eggs to coat everything.
And then we're adding the eggs.
Yeah, because the eggs actually brings it together so that it holds the pie. Fantastic. There we go. Fantastic.
That's the filling.
Yeah, so I'll get someone to do that for me. Fantastic. Now I'm just going to move this
we
board
can cook.
here.
We could talk about all the great health.
Fantastic. I'm going to bring another
How
board.
healthy. So we're just going to
Yeah,
blend
so-
all of this together.
Beautiful. And look at those colors. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. So very important, you know, always taste and no double dipping. So we just want to check our seasoning.
You're eating the eggs raw, but that's okay.
That's okay.
Oh, because they're organic.
Yeah,
okay,
a little
very
bit of more salt and pepper
good. Okay.
on that, and then we're
Yes,
fine.
chef.
Thank you, please. Now, guys, how
Hello,
easy
Bree,
is
how we
this?
doing, all right?
Very
Yes.
easy.
How easy is this mixture?
This is easy, guys. So,
Yeah.
tomatoes,
You're doing great.
salt, pepper,
Herbs.
feta, herbs,
Exactly.
and
beautiful herbs.
eggs. That's it. Very simple, very simple
Very
recipe.
simple
then
and
we got
very
the phyllo
healthy,
dough,
very healthy.
What kind of dough should people buy? Because there's so many when you go to the store.
Yeah, I actually buy. Yeah, we have to be very careful here in America. We don't have this issue in Australia, but the only phyllo pastry I'll buy is the organic one, because all the other brands use canola oil and vegetables and soy, and they're potentially genetically modified. So we said reduce inflammation. If we're using that phyllo, we're increasing the inflammation in our body, and it's very unfortunate that they add all those other ingredients.
Find organic phyllo.
I got this, any major supermarket has it, because I don't want to sort of give brand names, but any major supermarket
And try
has this.
the
yeah.
you know, an organic
Now,
health food store in your
before I
neighborhood.
take it out of the packet, what I'm showing everybody today is I'm using muffin tins to make these. So in order for me to fit the phyllo there, is you keep it in the packet, and then you get your knife and cut it to this size, because that's going to fit there.
Very
okay?
simple.
Now, very important.
Look
We'll
at
cover
that, it's
that.
all ready for
yeah,
you.
That's
and
about
it's
4
already.
inches.
So so I'm going to get someone to cover my phyllo over there, so
got
it's
it.
nicely thin, and I'm going to get someone to brush my muffin tins.
We have to explain to the ladies at home that this phyllo, and the gentlemen, because men cook
Yeah.
as well, has to keep moist, so we have to wrap it.
Yeah, because it'll dry, and very important. Don't have any doors open or windows open, because the phyllo dries straight away. So try not to have windy conditions. Now, even though this is a non-stick muffin tin, I actually do like to oil it. The reason being is it's going to help the phyllo cook. So if we don't put extra virgin olive oil on the bottom of these, it won't cook, the phyllo won't be crispy. So if I can get one of you lovely ladies to do that, and then I'm going to cut this and get it ready. So
Nice and crispy.
yeah, so as you can see, I'm just cutting like cubes like that, so that that cube will fit there. So cut the cubes, and I'm going to grab another tea towel if I may there.
Yes, you may.
Thank you, thank you. So the reason is I just want to cover these as well, so they don't dry.
New York, what do we say? Just give me the tea towel.
Just yes. Well,
May I
we
please have
we
the
like
tea
to be
towel?
polite. So cover these, and then the next step is, and we'll only show a few. It's 2 pieces of phyllo and brush. And brush. 2 and brush, and we want to at least have in each little muffin mold 10 to 12, because it's a really, really heavy mixture.
So 10 to 12 layers.
Yeah, yes, I'm doing 2 at a
2 at a time. So you would do 5 to 6.
Exactly, yeah, 2 at a time, because the bottom one I've already put olive oil, so therefore I don't need to sort of, oil both sides, because the bottom's been taken care of, that one, this is going to be taken care of. And I'm just going round and round just to make sure that that mold is all covered quite nicely. So I'll just do one more, and I think I've got the right number.
Beautiful.
And then all you do, just so we can
And we
demonstrate,
fill it.
is you fill it and
then-
press down. So very important that you press down when you put the filling, and making sure that we've got lots of tomato, lots of feta, and it's all balanced,
Press
just
down,
like
but do you mush it?
inside the mold.
Do you mush it down, or
You don't mush it down, you just push it down,
Just
right?
slightly, yeah, because we don't want any air pockets.
All right.
Fantastic.
And then
the
how long do we cook it for?
And the final step,
Oh, there's more.
little bit of sea salt just on top like that. So once we've filled all of this in the oven, 355 degrees, 30 to 35 minutes.
And that's it.
That's it. How
And you
easy.
get your beautiful
Look at the results. Yeah. And these are great for
Santorini
kids.
pies.
Great for kids to get their
Great for kids.
tomato.
Healthy,
Yeah.
antioxidants, organic. Thank you for joining us today. Ladies, thank you for being on our show. We're
Thank
very
you,
happy
team.
to
Thank
have
you
you.
for your help.
That's
Thank
terrific.
you. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you. And we'll see you again next time
Bye.
on In the Spotlight.